The Angry Chicken is a production of amove.tv. Check out Amove TV for more podcasts covering Blizzard games. And for more of Jocelyn's gaming podcasts, visit jossplays.com. The Angry Chicken is brought to you by our legendary patrons over at patreon.com/TAC.
Time's up. Let's do this.
Legendary!
You face Jaraxxus. You smell like a leper gnome. I knew it. So hot.
A podcast about Hearthstone and Battlegrounds. This is The Angry Chicken!
Greetings and welcome back, everybody. This is indeed, as the bird said, The Angry Chicken, the podcast about a game that is just woefully lacking for new things and news and exciting announcements to talk about. So here to really stretch for time with me, Garrett Weinzierl, is none other than Jocelyn Carney. How you doing, Joss? How are we going to fill this episode?
I know. I think this might be the first time in the history of The Angry Chicken that we just do a 10-minute episode. Like, I think we're going to be in, out, bing, bang, boom, gone. Like, easy peasy.
Yeah, because it's just, there definitely wasn't BlizzCon in February.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I'm getting news there is. Oh, boy, this is embarrassing, Joss. I have a lot of catching up to do. Can we pause this?
Sure, yeah. We'll just go watch all of BlizzCon from the weekend while you guys sit and wait. Just hang tight. We'll be right back.
If I wasn't about to call this out, how long do you think we could keep this bit going?
Oh, I don't know. Like, probably a good 10, 20 minutes.
I'm hearing
get a move on.
I'm hearing something about Barrens griffins. We should hire some mercenaries to update us on Battlegrounds.
There you go.
Did I get everything?
I think you did.
Awesome. Well, we have a ton to talk about today. We're going to talk about Year of the Griffin. We're going to talk about Forge and the Barrens. We're going to air for you, podcast listeners, our interview with Breeden and Joe Killion, developers from the Hearthstone team. We're going to talk about the new mode Mercenaries. We're going to talk about some of the new core set cards that we are getting, and also how some of our old favorites are getting buffed or completely staying the same. And finally, we'll talk about patch 19.6, which stealth released during BlizzCon and wasn't mentioned at all during the convention itself. So before we do all of that, I want to thank those of you supporting us over at patreon.com/TAC. This is an independent show. This is how we get paid. I pay a good amount of my bills by making this here content, and I would so very much appreciate it if you would help me and Joss pay those bills. So head on over to patreon.com/TAC. Check it out. Get yourself some perks like access to our Discord, an ad-free version of the feed automatically delivered to you via a private RSS feed specially made for you. I'd put a bow on it, but it's not a physical item.
That was a good hand gesture, though. It really felt like a gift.
It's because it is, Joss. It is a gift. And we want to thank our most recent patrons. So Alexander James Raymond and J Trey. Thank you very much. J Trey, I want to hear some sick rhymes because it sounds like you might be like a rapper or a hip hop artist. J Trey coming at you. Also, we want to thank Matthew Marcy. He's been a patron for quite a long time, but Matthew upped his pledge this past week, so extra super special thanks and shout out to Matthew. And with all of that in mind, let's just get straight into it. This week's Hearthstone news.
Good news, everyone!
Oh, yes! BlizzcOnline.
Oh, no.
What do you mean, oh no? Why?
Because, Garrett, there will come a day, but it is not this day. We did not get Year of the Unicorn.
Oh, you're still you are still on that fool's errand.
I know, and I didn't make it up, guys. It was in the compass graphic on Old Gods. It's got to be coming around eventually, right? They just have to get through, like, how many animals can there possibly be on that wheel? Like maybe 12, maybe in the 12th year.
We just went
full
through
Hearthstone Zodiac. We'll get it.
We just went through this on episode 400 with Celestalon. Unicorns don't even exist in Warcraft. They would have to be a Corsair. So the most you can hope for.
That would be fine. That would be acceptable.
Okay. All right. Well, it's not that.
As long as there's lots of glitter.
As announced at BlizzcOnline, we are getting Year of the Griffin and a brand new expansion to kick it off called Forged in the Barrens. My hopes for it to be entirely an expansion based around removing pointy quills from Quillbore were unfounded. So, yeah. Yeah, Forged in the Barrens, a horde-focused expansion.
Yes, which we were kind of thinking was going to be the way anyway. They did hint while they were talking about Forged in the Barrens that Alliance are going to get a little bit more of a focus later on in the year. So this seems to be maybe not necessarily exactly the same as our like Rise of Shadows, League of Explorers year, but definitely doing some sort of storytelling with a set of characters that we will see reoccur. So there's, this is kind of a new take. It's just the same, only different, I think, in terms of storytelling in Hearthstone. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to come up with. But yeah, we've got Garrett is now showing the Year of the Griffin graphic. And so the first expansion we know is Forged in the Barrens. That's all Hordy. The next one is so like Alliance-y, it's crazy. And then the third image, Garrett, I need you to tie break this thing in my head. Are we going to Alterac Valley or are we going to Wintergrasp? Because this has like Horde v Alliance, like wintry themes. It just screams a battleground to me. So which one is it?
Well, I mean, Blizzard is so Alliance biased. It has to be. It has to be Alterac Valley.
Right?
It has to be, because otherwise, how are they going to continue to prove their Alliance bias unless they choose
and they
the
call
battleground
it
that the Alliance are
Griffin,
more
right?
likely to win? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
They call it Year of the Griffin. What about
Year of the Griffin, not Wyvern?
Yeah, what the shit? Alliance bias. It's ridiculous. Let's ignore the fact that I switched to Alliance for Shadowlands.
Tisk.
Let's just
Tisk,
ignore
tisk.
that fact. Yeah, that second teaser image for expansion 2 in Year of the Griffin is just Alliance as hell. And the first place my brain went when I saw that third image teaser was Alterac Valley. I mean, I think you could make just as strong an argument for Wintergrasp. I don't think it matters all that much, because at the end of the day, all of this is very well done. Set dressing for card mechanics. That's all that matters, Jocelyn. That, and frankly,
Exactly.
the only reason I truly, really, truly care about expansion settings is how they will influence the absolutely ridiculous expansion announcement videos, and how they will also influence the cheesy costumes that the developers will be forced to wear to announce.
We got more
said
safari
expansion.
hats.
Yeah. Yeah, I was really happy to see that. Like, I don't, call me a shill all you want, man. I was glad to see the return of adventure and safari hats in my Hearthstone announcements. They were sorely missed. They were sorely missed, Joss. But yeah, let's get right into it and talk about this new damn expansion. First off is that we don't have a release date. We got out of BlizzcOnline without a proper release date. If you go over to the official site right now, it simply says coming March 2021.
Which is still slightly earlier, right? Because
is true.
normally we get April. So March is still on the early side of things. So I would say probably late March then, just because like I don't think they're going to be like, oh, hey, guess what? Also, it's next week. Like, here's all of the cards and it's launching on Tuesday. So I think expecting it to come late March is a good kind of bet there. And yeah, I mean, I'm pretty stoked about it. I'm really, more than anything, excited to play in a Hearthstone universe created around like a core set that's focused on making this year super fun, you know? So this is the first time we're going to get a Hearthstone expansion with some real direct support from like the base of the game. And so yeah, I'm really excited for this rotation. I think this is going to be a really cool expansion.
Yeah. And we're getting some new things. We're getting a new keyword among other, what I think are even potentially more interesting, even though I'm particularly excited about this new keyword. It's called Frenzy. And essentially how it works is that a minion with the keyword Frenzy will trigger an effect the first time they survive damage. So this is a one-time effect, very much in the vein of Spell Burst. It's almost like that was a successful keyword. And they might want to explore other avenues of single-time effects. And yeah, that's Frenzy in a nutshell. We've seen now a couple of different examples of it. We are going to talk about some Frenzy cards later on in this episode. But
there's some really powerful swingy ones, which is very, very similar to Spell Burst, like you mentioned, just because the effects, since they only happen once, they can be a lot more powerful. So we're seeing them take that kind of mechanic or that way of thinking and applying it in a new way, which is, I think, really interesting. So there's some pretty powerful swingy looking Frenzy cards.
Yeah, to say the least. And then we're also getting ranked spells, which is not a new keyword, but like a new mechanic for spells. And I mean, they basically upgrade. You get like different ranks, and you know, it's definitely an allusion to getting new ranks of spells as you level up in World of Warcraft. But yeah, it's very similar to like upgrading effects.
Yeah, the interesting thing about the ranked spells is that it matters what stage of the game that you're in, not necessarily your control of the specific card. So You don't need to play it early. You don't need to draw it early and hang on to it. You don't need to do other things over the course of the game in order to activate it. It just matters if you are between like 1 to 5 mana crystals, 5 to 10 mana crystals, or 10 mana crystals and further on in the game, right? So it's kind of like splitting a Hearthstone game into sections in a way that we've never really seen them do before, which I think is interesting, because if ranked spells end up working well, this kind of like opens up a whole new development mentality for them, right? Like a whole new design space. Like if this works well, then they can apply this same sort of thing to minions or weapons or anything else within the game and just, you know, like say, hey, this costs 3 mana the whole game, but it's going to do something different depending on how many mana crystals you have, which is really cool.
Yeah. And all of them work the same. They upgrade once at 5 mana crystals, and they upgrade a second time at 10 mana crystals. And Light Knight in the chat room, thank you for reminding me of Omega, because it was Omega Devastator, and we had a couple other Omega cards, didn't we?
And those ones, like they're kind of similar, except that it was very much like just there was like either they basically split the game in half, right? It was, do you have 10 mana crystals or not? This is much more like
I believe it actually said, are you playing against an aggro deck or not? Because if you are, you don't care what it says on this card.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah. So rank spells, I like that it's split up, as you mentioned.
It's a little more granular.
Yes, exactly. And it still does something if you're not that far into the game at all. Like if you're between 1 and 5, it still has a low rank effect. And then there is the new mechanic that is not specific to Forged in the Barrens, because it's also going to affect every other constructed and arena version of
it's just like every other card.
Anything that involves like cards that actually exist in Hearthstone. And it's Spell Schools. It's a new permanent addition to Hearthstone. We're adding Arcane, Fel, Fire, Frost, Holy, Nature, and Shadow tags to put it technically, butt-ton number of spells, both new and old, across both standard and wild. And I guess not classic, because that would defeat the purpose of classic. And even if you did, it wouldn't matter, because none of the classic cards have synergies with these new tags.
Right.
So
I was kind of surprised that Nature ended up having the most spells from past sets, and that like Frost had so few. Maybe it's because we've seen so many more Frost cards be like played and meta viable. Like Frost Mage was a thing for so long that like they're just so prevalent in my mind when I think about Hearthstone cards, that when I saw like, oh, there's only 24 spells in past sets that are actually Frost spells, I was like, that's a lie, versus 112 Nature spells. Like, what? I guess it just kind of depends. Like, their interpretation of what belongs in what bucket, right?
Yeah. Hey,
There's probably lots of druid and hunter things that go in the nature bucket.
And we're getting details from Celestalon on the chat room right now. It says Frost is only used in Mage and a tiny bit in Shaman, and we don't even make that many freeze effects, which... Yeah, when I think of getting frozen in Hearthstone, Jocelyn, the same 2 cards come to mind and have been coming to mind since beta, which is Frostnova and Blizzard. I know there's more, but those are the first 2 that come to mind, and those are still freezing my board.
Frostbolt was the first thing that stuck in my head.
Oh yeah, and Frostbolt. How dare I forget the other beta freezing effect?
But yeah, it's definitely not as widely used, and I forget too that. I guess lightning damage or lightning type effects happen in the school of nature as well. So that's, more shaman things and yeah.
Yeah, you get nature across, shaman, druid. Who else has nature?
Hunter.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so you get 3 classes and oof.
Yeah.
Oof. What do we call warrior spells that give armor? We just can we add a tag that says bullshit?
Yeah, I don't know what those would count as, or if they even got like a moniker. I'm not sure, like if they got a spell school assigned to them. But I mean, that would maybe be maybe nature, maybe shadow. I don't know. It's definitely not fire, I don't think, or fell.
Overhealing cheating. That's what we'll call it.
Yeah, that's what we need. We need cheat spells.
Yeah, but this probably, in a weird way, probably has me more excited than anything else, like, out of the whole BlizzcOnline suite of announcements, because, like, you and I have been hoping for, like, a new minion type for a really long time, and, like, we haven't talked about it as much recently, but way back in the day, we were like, why don't we have more? Give us all the races of Warcraft as minion types and really get crazy and granular with your synergies, because...
Well, I mean, we even talked about it like when we were kind of theorizing about what might be coming at BlizzCon and in terms of the entire like Hearthstone year, and saying like, what if we had like horde tags on our horde minions in this set and alliance tags in the next set? Like we were going even like that recently, talking about, tagging cards with different like buckets, just because once you actually give something a tag, you can interact with it a little bit more, right? Or in different and interesting ways. So
yeah, it just adds like a lot of potential depth, right? And we've only seen a few examples of new synergies with these tags, but we still have a lot of cards to see, both from the expansion itself and the core set. And so I have to say, I was starting just to feel a pull back to doing full set reviews. I just don't know how we do it at this point.
There's no way.
At some point,
no way.
The whole core set is going to drop.
Yeah.
It's just going to be like...
Although they did say at BlizzCon, so like this year is going to be crazy. But then probably going forward, we're going to see less changes to the core set. Like this is the first time that they're kind of making a go at it. So we're getting, like 30-ish, I think 29 or 30 new cards, completely new cards. And then there's, some wild stuff and some standard stuff, but we won't see that many changes necessarily, or like this is the first big year. And yeah, we shouldn't expect the core set to change as drastically as the shift from like classic basic to core versus core year over year. So it's an interesting concept, but yeah, this year it's a lot to cover, so I don't think we'll be doing full entire sets, but there's some interesting conversations. I think once we see if there's any like support for spell schools in that core set, or if it's just in the, I imagine there will be, but it might only be in the expansions. You never know. But I think that we've seen a couple of interactions with spell schools that seem very interesting, and they haven't taken anything away necessarily, in that like just generic spell damage is still a thing, which is really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed, right? Like that's because that was my first thought. I was like, well, wait, what happens to current spell damage?
What happens to spell damage?
Like, no,
yeah.
it's still there. It's fine.
Yeah.
It works.
This is just extra.
It always has. Yeah, which is cool. But yeah, it's just God. Thinking about how much this opens up potential new designs just for the game as a whole. It's just because like how many different ways can you design a spell damage minion, right? Like you can have like toggleable spell damage. We've seen minions that's their spell damage buff grows over time.
And it grows, yeah.
But there's only so many versions of that you can come up with. But this now you can get really granular and start to kind of class bias it as well. So I like this a lot. But anyways, before we get into talking about actual cards we got to lay eyes on and also a new mode, let's get to thanking this week's sponsor.
I got the best deals anywhere.
Honey is back sponsoring this episode of The Angry Chicken. That is right. You can go check them out over at joinhoney.com/TAC. And they're going to help you shop online, which I would assume you do. You're listening to a program that is only available if you do the online thing. That's how internet speak works. Yeah.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
Nailed
Listen,
it.
Josh, we were just talking about Warriors. I have been taunted before, but in this case, I was taunted by the promo code field at checkout while shopping online. Has that happened to you before?
Absolutely. I hate shopping online when I don't have something to put in that gap. I'm like, I could be saving money, but it's blank. Why?
Yeah, but thanks, honey. I don't have to do that anymore. I don't have to manually search for coupon codes like a bad Hearthstone player. I don't know. I was gonna be like a jackass, and I'm like, that's harsh. I don't need to say that. I don't need to go there. But Honey is a free browser extension that scours the internet for promo codes and applies the best one it finds to your cart. And Honey supports over 30,000 stores online, which is just awesome. I've used Honey. I've had it installed on my browser for quite a while now. Actually, since shortly before they first ever sponsored an episode. Funny enough, I was just shopping around for things, and I think one of the first episodes of this darn show we ever did a sponsor read for, I got those ridiculously bright pink and turquoise sunglasses.
Yes.
Yeah. I saved some money on those with a Honey code, but just recently I saved me, I think it was like $3 on the nose for a pizza order. So,
whoa.
Yeah, that just means more money for more pizza. Who doesn't want that?
I always want more pizza, man.
I do too, even if I regret it afterwards. So anyways, you should go check them out, because if you go to joinhoney.com/TAC, you will get Honey for free and start saving money. You'll also support this podcast in the process. So if you don't already have Honey, you could be straight up missing out on free savings. It is literally free and installs in a few seconds. And by getting it, you'll be doing yourself a solid and supporting TAC. Get Honey for free over at joinhoney.com/TAC. That's joinhoney.com/TAC. Now let's go talk about Mercenaries. We got a new mode. Well, sort of. We got the announcement of a new mode. We got the announcement of a tease of a new mode.
We got the name of a new mode.
Hey. We got art. I want that Valera. That Valera looks cool. This was weird, man. We got a lot of cool stuff to talk about today, and we have so many hard facts to get through that this part feels like a speed bump to me. Because I don't know what to tell you what Mercenaries is. I sat through a whole BlizzCon and I don't know what Mercenaries is.
Yeah, and I think that is
I'm not sure Blizzard knows what Mercenaries is.
I know. And I think that the reason we're feeling like this is because I think this is the first time we've had an announcement of anything like this, a new mode or a new type of Hearthstone or whatever, where we haven't seen gameplay alongside the announcement, where they haven't come in and said like, hey, we're building this thing and here's your first look. And all we got for Mercenaries was the randomly generated map, kind of still image splash screen. So there were definitely a lot of questions that came out of the soft announcement, shall we call it, of Mercenaries, in that they said it's going to have elements of roguelikes and tactical RPGs. And some people are comparing it to Slay the Spire, but it's not a deck builder, so it's not exactly Slay the Spire. And also, it's not exactly a roguelike because your progression is permanent. And yeah, so
Well,
it has a lot of like, well, it's kind of like this and it's kind of like that, but it's not like this or that. And so I think therein comes a lot of maybe the confusion.
A lot of roguelikes do have permanent progression. I would like to point out, so they're not mutually exclusive. Just because you're repeating like the main gameplay loop does not mean that
those are not my words; they're Bentley's words.
Okay,
I don't play roguelikes.
Yeah, man. it's so. Excuse me, Mr. Bentley. Yes, I'm gonna push my glasses up. A lot of roguelites have progression. Is my response to that. Yeah, that's pretty much all we got. We were just like, I mean, like, it is hard for me to walk away from this announcement and not just go, it's a mode and it's called Mercenaries. So it's been up on the YouTube for a few days. If you're listening on audio podcast, you're about to hear our developer interview with Liv Breeden and Joe Killion. We felt the need to ask if there were cards in this mode because we weren't sure.
I was really confused.
Which makes sense. Like that's how you interface with anything in Hearthstone. Everything in Hearthstone has some form of card, but it was just like I've never left a Hearthstone presentation more completely confused.
Well, yeah, because it's also not a deck builder and doesn't pull from your collection, which is fine because Battlegrounds is not a deck builder that doesn't pull from your collection and also does have cards because when you buy the minions, it becomes a card that you play. Like it all. You're right in saying that's how you interface with Hearthstone, but this announcement seemed so out of left field for me that I was just like, okay, but how is that Hearthstone? Like, where do the cards come in? What is happening? Because they talked about like taking a character through, leveling up, getting equipment, which sounds to me like a WoW raid. I'm like, so I got to get my chess piece drop? Like, okay. Like, again, how is this a card game? How is this Hearthstone? And I think that's the question they haven't really answered yet, which is okay. It's just not the type of announcement that we're used to having out of the Hearthstone team. So I think they wanted to kind of present us with their next ideas, even if it's not 100% ready for us to view like gameplay. Because it sounds like a lot of things are still very much up in the air and still in development, and probably when this comes out, because it says it's coming in phase 1 based on the roadmap that we were provided for Year of the Griffin, which is going to run from March, whenever the rotation happens, all the way through until probably August-ish, whenever the next expansion comes out. So I think this might be something that we see a little bit later on.
Yeah, this feels delayed to me. Essentially, like, it's hard for me not to walk away from this being like, I think there were some brakes being applied, barreling into the announcement of this, because it was part of last year's roadmap, right? So I can understand a desire to feel like you had to announce it, but boy, it did not seem like it was ready to be announced.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, it sounds interesting. I'll definitely give it a shot. I don't know, like I said, I don't play roguelikes or roguelites or, you know, any of the, like, I've never played Slay the Spire. I know lots of people love it, but I'd rather just play Hearthstone. So it's probably not my jam, and maybe that's why I'm totally cool with everything that's happened and been announced / not announced, is I was just like, it's not for me anyways. This is all good. I'm just gonna keep playing Constructed and keep playing Battlegrounds because there's super cool stuff happening there. There's also super cool stuff happening kind of tied to this whole Mercenaries mode and Mercenaries idea, is that they've talked about the mercenary characters from like basically like this mode kind of crossing over with what's happening on the standard side of things and also what's happening in Battlegrounds, in that there's going to be 10 mercenary characters released that are going to be 5 Horde and 5 Alliance, and those are the characters whose stories we're going to follow over the course of the standard year. So not so much a big overarching story as much as we're going to learn the stories of all of these kind of characters. Some of it's going to play out in single player stuff. Some of it's going to play out in like mercenary mode, battlegrounds, constructed with cards that we're going to see come out in the expansions. Like, it's definitely a new approach to Hearthstone storytelling, and some of that inspiration, it seems, has come out of this new mode. So it's all kind of tying together in really cool ways. I just, I don't know if this is as around the corner as some people may like.
Yeah. To me, like I walked away thinking like, oh, this is coming late. Like, is my thought. So yeah. I was just weird. I don't like, I've had a few people tweeting at me like, hey, what do you think about Mercenaries? And I was like, I find it impossible to have a take. Like, I don't think it's possible to tell you what I think, because I don't know what to think. I
think it's really, really early. Like, I mean, again, we haven't even seen gameplay yet. It's way too early to be saying yay or nay on this. I think the other thing that was kind of interesting that came out of this whole new game mode Mercenaries conversation, and chat room has mentioned it too, is the idea of what Ben Lee said, how they view Hearthstone as a platform from which to play card games, which I thought was really interesting. And he said internally they've kind of always thought of it like that. And I'm like, wow, that's a real departure from the way that we're used to seeing Hearthstone. Like, we're used to thinking of Hearthstone as, you know, constructed gameplay with some offshoots in some other like experiments or whatever. But very much we saw as a community, I think, kind of like constructed Hearthstone as the core of what Hearthstone was as a game. And so to think of Hearthstone as a platform is new to us. And I think it's a really cool way to think about it. I just wonder, because there's no other game modes other than a spell locked thing in phase 3. So that could be a new game mode. We don't know. But I don't know how much more we're going to get this year, or how much more support we might get post Mercenaries for this whole platform idea. But it's definitely an interesting way to think about Hearthstone, and I think it's really cool and I like it.
Yeah, I mean, I think in a way it's always been a platform, right? Because there's always been more than one way to play, so it's always been there. But like Battlegrounds,
it's
really,
just not how I ever thought about it.
Yeah, Battlegrounds really widened the landscape of, I think, how Hearthstone is perceived. Or maybe it doubled it. Maybe it just created new players, right? Because I know a lot of people just kind of think about Battlegrounds as their own game and think about Hearthstone as Hearthstone.
Right. But
whatever the case is, yeah. Post Battlegrounds, Hearthstone is different. Hearthstone feels larger than it once was. So yeah. I mean, there's already a lot in the client. So if we are slowing down on new modes post Mercenaries, I think that's okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, should we start like the days since platform announcement ticker or something until we get Hearthstone 2.0? Like, they have to change and update, right? We have to get a 2.0 launch if we're going to continue this platform idea.
Yeah, I guess so, right? Like...
Well, I mean, and Ridiculous Hat is in the chat room, and I know he's been on the show a couple of times now where we've had these new announcements. I think it was even before Duels was even announced, and we were having conversations about like, hey, maybe it's time to have a new base game, because they could probably use some, you know, actual support instead of feeling like it's held together with duct tape.
I mean, yeah, we've been talking about the concerns about the client since Spectator mode took so long to get added, and then when it was added, the cards were upside down, and they're still upside down.
And they're still upside down. That's how long we've been talking
about, as players with no idea about how difficult it is to work within this client, starting to think to ourselves, it might be difficult to work within this client.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an interesting one. I've been thinking on it a lot, just, you know, as a fan of games, especially as a fan of Blizzard games, because like, I also still cover Heroes of the Storm, and we were all miffed over in the Heroes of the Storm community because they use the Heroes of the Storm Twitter to promote BlizzCon, but there's nothing Heroes of the Storm related at BlizzCon. And a couple of the devs got on the Heroes of the Storm subreddit and said, hey guys, we're still here making cool stuff for you. We literally, we'll level with you. We just don't have anything that's ready to show you right now. And I think that's cool. This kind of like this announcement of Mercenaries strikes me as kind of the opposite. It felt like they didn't really quite have enough to show us, but they decided to show us what they had, which was really awesome art.
Yeah. I mean, I am super stoked about Baby King Crush. Like, I am down.
Dude, yeah, same. Baby King Crush looks awesome. Just the whole thought of like leveling up these mercenaries, but like I want to know how. Like, how I'm going about that. You mentioned equipment. Like, show me some equipment.
I want to know how equipment works. Like, even just in the UI, like, where does it go? How do I know I got it dropped? Like, what do I do? Do the cards combine? Is Sylvanas down on the board and then all of a sudden she has a cool new shirt? I don't know. No one knows.
Yeah,
maybe Blizzard knows.
Yeah, it's just like, we're here, we're ready. I was just left with the question of why was this weird? I guess was my question, and I just kind of wanted something to be like, yeah, hey, we're a little behind because of the pandemic or because of the feedback from the rewards track. We're rethinking some things, like, because that's where my brain goes, and so I'm just curious as to why. Like I'm having some fun here. I'm ripping on them a little bit at their expense, but like I'm not like bummed about this. I'm just confused more than anything else.
Yeah.
So.
But I mean, we saw something. They could have shown us nothing. So I think this is pretty cool. So
yeah. Anyways, we're going to talk about this a little bit more with Liv and Joe from the Hearthstone team. So we'll see you on the other side. And if you're watching on YouTube, it's over at youtube.com/YouMoveTV right now. You should go watch that. I'm going to pause the audio recording real quick to give myself a nice little break to add that in there, starting it back up and going straight into. All right. Well, thanks again to Team 5 for giving us access to some lovely devs over BlizzCon weekend. And for once, Joss, I didn't have to like run out of breath trying to run and catch the finals of some esport after doing a dev interview at BlizzCon.
Right.
It was about the only thing that was like an improvement doing BlizzConline as opposed to BlizzCon in person.
Sleeping in my own bed between BlizzCon days was pretty freaking sweet. And especially since I felt like I wasn't missing out, because I've definitely had BlizzCons where I've been at home. The last time would have been like 2014, I think was the last BlizzCon that I did from home. And I mean, yeah, like you get the huge FOMO, but when everybody's stuck at home, you're just like, ha, I get my own bed and I'm not missing anything.
Yep. I thought you were going to say it was nice to sleep in my own bed, especially because I was drinking as much as I normally would as if I were at BlizzCon. But yeah, I was like, hey, Katie, here, take $15 and give me one beer. I want to recapture the environment of buying alcohol at the Hilton.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Especially as a Canadian, those are like $20 beers, and it's just terrible.
Yeah, our American dollar is like the super Canadian dollar.
It is, yeah. It's Canadian dollar on steroids.
Hurts a little bit. Well, let's look at some cards. We got Forged in the Barrens cards that were revealed at BlizzConline and already answered my most burning question when I realized that Forged in the Barrens was the name of the expansion, which is, tell me, please, Mankrik has got to be a card. And Mankrik, not only is Mankrik a card, Jocelyn, but Mankrik is a 3-mana 3/4 legendary neutral minion that literally makes you go and find Mankrik's wife. It shuffles Mankrik's wife into your deck.
Which is quite an iconic like moment in vanilla Warcraft, right? In the Barrens. Like everybody knows about this.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. I found this hilarious. And by the way, when you find Olgra, Mankrik's wife, cast
spoiler alert.
Yeah, sorry.
She's not doing
You've
so good.
You've only had 16, 17 years. How old is World of Warcraft
16
now?
16 years, yeah.
Yeah. If you find Olgra, cast when drawn, summon a 3/10 Mankrik who immediately attacks the enemy hero. So, 3 damage guaranteed to face. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Good stuff. You also may have noticed that you have a new Shadowhunter Vol'jin card right now that you can go play with if you logged in since BlizzCon. Shadowhunter Vol'jin is 5 mana, 3/6 legendary neutral minion. Battlecry, choose a minion, swap it with a random one in its owner's hand. I had a priest do this to me in a big priest mirror, and I don't remember exactly what happened, but it seemed like the turning point of me losing that mirror.
Yeah, I think he's a really flexible, therefore powerful card because you can choose any minion, so it doesn't have to be an opponent's minion, but you can basically use it as a 3/6 with a sap if you're not a rogue, which is things that, non-rogues aren't supposed to be able to do. Or you can use it on your own minions and then like replay stuff with powerful battle cries or whatever. Like it's very versatile, which I think makes it really powerful. So I have seen some already in people's decks, and I expect we'll see them pretty much through at least this first expansion, and I hope more, because like Fulton is like best war chief.
Definitely most criminally underutilized war chief.
Yes.
Sure. And I'm be honest, not very stiff competition given how all the other war chiefs we've had. So
oh, poor Thrall.
Thrall's the only one who would give him a run for his money. Okay, the other two, they've had like two basically fascist dictators. So yeah. Let's talk about Frenzy, because Frenzy is on Blade Master Samuro. Samuro is making his Hearthstone debut as a 4-mana, 1/6 legendary neutral minion with Rush and Frenzy. So this is if Samuro survives damage, which makes sense. Rush on this, 1/6 Rush. Frenzy, deal damage equal to this minion's attack to all enemy minions. So
now, I just have a quick question, Garrett, and I maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't, I don't know, but not every Frenzy minion has the Rush tag. Does this effect activate, the Frenzy effect activate regardless of if it's your turn or not, or does it work like secrets?
I'm hoping Celestalon is still in the chat room because I have not seen this clarified. I assumed it would not matter.
I would assume it wouldn't matter either.
But Overkill, it had to be attacking.
Right.
Okay,
it works.
Celestalon says anytime.
Yeah. Okay, good. Cool.
Yeah, first time it takes damage and dies. Okay, cool. Awesome. Yeah, so if you can buff Samuro's attack, when
it doesn't die, it has to survive the damage. Yeah, it has to survive the damage. It's okay. Ridiculous Hat in the chat room messed you up 100%. I saw that. He's trying to sabotage you.
How dare it's still on me. I shouldn't have read something that was wrong. Yeah. Anyways, it has to survive. Doesn't matter if it's attacking and it survives or it gets attacked and survives, as long as it survives. Frenzy gets triggered. And so in the case of Samuro, you want to be buffing this minion's attack.
Which is something that I think we saw, wasn't there some hand buffing support or something? Or was that in the core set cards? Oh man, I feel like we've seen so many cards.
We've seen quite a few.
Right. Overlord Runthak from the core set is whenever he attacks, he buffs your hand +1/+1. So there is some hand buffing kind of support happening in the core set too. So it is, and it's neutral. So it is possible to do some buff things when you've got a Samuro in your hand. As I say deck, but hand. Yeah. Anyways, there's some stuff you can do.
Yeah. They showed an example of Samuro working at BlizzcOnline. Seems quite strong. Important to note that it's enemy minions, not all minions. So
and he only costs 4, so that point in the game, I mean, 1 damage to everything or 2 damage to everything, those are, going to be pretty big impact things if you've got an opponent who's doing anything tokeny at all.
Yeah. And yeah, Samuro's stock just goes way, way up if you're playing a class that can buff his attack. Let's look at our first minion that involves these new spell schools. I'm just going to start calling them spell tags. Brucon, 4-mana, 5/4 legendary shaman minion, nature spell damage +3. Brucon is wielding some lightning.
Yep.
Real straightforward.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's +3 seems like a lot, especially when 5/4 stats for 4 is, pretty on par. But because it's very specifically nature spell damage, that takes a lot of options out of the pool, right? And so I'm assuming Lightning Bolt would have the nature spell tag, but we're not 100% sure, I don't think, that Lightning Bolt is making it into the core set. So there's some questions here about what Shaman's kit is actually going to have. We know it's going to have Lightning Storm. So again, like +3 seems like a lot, but if you're taking away some of those like direct to face options, then it's maybe not quite as scary and, you know, makes you interact with the board a little bit more, which is cool.
Yeah. It also is just now striking me that these specific spell damages that are, you know, tied to these spell tags it's interesting because it won't. I feel like it's a very, very minor knock on random like spells added to your hand. Mm-hmm. Like if you are trying to build around your spell tags, like if you're just getting random spells added to your hand, you're not really gaining benefit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it's really in theory, all you really need to know about this is like in terms of how it will affect Shaman is like Lava Burst would be fire since that is its own tag.
Right, yeah.
So this would only affect like traditional lightning Shaman spells and not the fire Shaman spells.
Mm-hmm.
Face is not the place. Although I guess you could go face with Lightning Bolt. So there you go.
Yeah, which is why I kind of brought up the difference between Lightning Bolt and Lightning Storm. Both probably nature spells, but yeah. And we don't even 100% know. We know the only one we know for sure that's going to be in the core set is Lightning Storm, because that one was announced as part of the changes. Yeah.
It's fine because it'll still be in wild, right? Like,
yes, we'll still be in wild.
Yeah. There's some more spell tag synergy going on with Spirit Healer, a new 4-mana 3/6 epic neutral minion, which reads: after you cast a holy spell, give a friendly minion +2 health. This, I mean, it's not pretty specific, but this feels very priesty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is neutral, and so it'll be interesting to see which spells actually get that holy tag. I expect there's going to be some in Paladin, some in Priest, obviously Priest. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if anybody else gets any holy love. Because it is interesting that this is a neutral card, and maybe it's neutral so that just because Paladin and Priest exist. But I mean, it would have been cool to get dual class cards too.
I'm going to throw these in all my mage decks and just hope I randomly generate some holy spells.
Right? Like, yeah, I don't think anybody else, maybe Shaman. Maybe.
I
feel like that's a stretch.
I would assume that not all healing is holy by nature, and that if it's like Healing Rain, for example, they would decide to tag it as nature.
that would be nature. Yeah, that's what, like, I mean, I definitely splash people when I heal them as a shaman. That's my healing power is here, take my water, sploosh.
That's how I heal myself on a hot summer day.
So yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see. But I mean, if nothing else, you'll be able to use this in Priest and Paladin.
Gotcha. And then we get into these ranked spells with Chain Lightning, parenthetical, rank 1, 2 mana, deal 2 damage to a minion and a random adjacent one, upgrades when you have 5 mana, and also upgrades when you have 10 mana. This is a nature spell, and I forgot to get the level
the upgraded versions.
Yep. Go me. So, yeah.
It does more stuff. For the same cost, which is interesting, I think. All of the rank spells do more but cost the same.
Yeah. So
there you go.
3 damage at the next rank and 4 damage at its final rank. It's 1 damage per rank, essentially.
Yeah. It's still 2 mana the whole way. So if you have it late game, it'll still do stuff.
Yeah, and the random adjacent one doesn't change at all. It doesn't upgrade to 2 random adjacent ones at any time, which wouldn't be random if it was 2 and adjacent.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you get the idea. You get the idea. Then we got another Frenzy card with Druid of the Plains. Let me go back to what I was following before for the visual audience. It's a 7 mana 7/6 epic Druid Beast with Rush and Frenzy, transform into a 6/7 coda with Taunt. This card seems really good to me.
Yeah, especially given that it's Druid, which means the 7 mana basically doesn't mean anything. This is going to come out long before turn 7. So I think this is super powerful. And again, because the frenzy effect happens as long as the minion survives, you can basically like tank this into something that has 5 attack or less, probably kill it because the Druid of the Plains, the first half of it has that 7 attack on it, right? So you're probably going to kill it, and then it's going to survive. And when it survives, it flips the attack and health. So it turns into a 6/7 with taunt, like fully healed, all good to go, just flippity floppity, and I'm all good. So it's this card seems really good.
Yeah 7 damage, conditional removal. If it survives the damage it takes, it turns into a 6/7 regardless of how much damage it took.
Yeah.
That seems really solid.
Very good.
Yep. Let's talk about an exciting 1-drop in Hunter, Sunscale Raptor. 1 mana, 1/3, rare Hunter Beast, Frenzy. Shuffle a Sunscale Raptor into your deck with permanent +2/+1.
So this is the kind of thing, if I'm reading this correctly, that unless you kill it completely, like from full health to dead, then it's just going to keep shuffling in and coming back bigger every time.
Yes. Indeed. Although it's rare, Joss, so you could have 2 of these, and so you might be finding an old shuffle copy that isn't as big as it potentially could be if the other one was... You get the idea.
Yeah.
This seems good.
Yeah, I think this is a really good 1-drop that's kind of going to make people think about what they're putting down on the board opposite it, right? Like if I'm a hunter and I play this out on turn 1, it's like, you have to play something with 3 attack or more. Otherwise, I'm going to start shuffling this stuff into my deck. Like, it is a one-time effect, remember, because it is Frenzy. But still, it's going to make people have to think twice. And I think this is going to be a difficult card to play around that early in the game.
Yeah, absolutely, right? Like, and even if you're going to look at it and go, well, wait, if I can't deal 3 damage all at once to this minion, I should probably not deal any damage to this minion, which means I should also keep minions off my board that don't have more than 3 damage.
Yeah.
That's still a good thing. I mean, yeah, you're only plinking them for 1, but you're Hunter, and they have historically had ways to buff beasts specifically.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, this has the beast tag on it as well, as does the raptor that goes into your deck. So, I mean, it's beast synergy on top of beast synergy, and hunters love beasts, and 1/3s on 1 are historically very strong, even with like just a beast tag and not even any other effect. So yeah. So I like this. This is a good card.
Yep. It's seems good, y'all. We got another ranked spell with Imp Swarm, rank 1 in parentheticals, 2 mana common warlock fell spell. Hey, is that a thing we get to say now? Summon a 3/2 imp upgrades when you have 5 mana. Let's navigate over to the official site where I can see the upgraded forms. Rank 2 at 5 mana will summon 2 3/2 imps, and at rank 3, meaning you're at 10 mana, will summon 3 3/2 imps. I am not excited about this card at all.
Yeah, this seems like a little bit weaker than the Chain Lightning Shaman spell that we just saw, but
however, it has a fell tag,
good.
And then I go, wait, what kind of synergies are with this? Because this is a little boring. But if there's any type of fell synergy, which I have to imagine something benefits this somehow, it could become more interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, this is still only going to be 2 mana, right? So yes, it is later in the game, so your 3/2s might not be as impactful, but it's kind of like board refill if you're looking at zoo things. And like you said, we don't know what goes alongside that fell tag yet, or, you know, even if they don't necessarily interact with fell spells specifically, there might be some more support for like a demon token kind of zoo version. Like Demon Zoo has kind of come in and out of favor over the years, and so maybe this is kind of a return to that form. Like, we really don't know. Again, like, caveat of all of our card reviews, right, is we don't know all the cards yet, so it makes it a little bit difficult. But this one for me is a wait and see, just to see what else warlocks get in the core set and the expansion, I think. But it's kind of interesting because in the end it'll cost 2 mana, right? So
Yeah.
that's still really good. If you're at 5 mana, you're paying 2 for 2 3/2s, and then also doing something else on that turn. Like, that's in a Warlock deck specifically, that can still be a powerful play. So I think this is okay with, maybe it's okay to maybe good/great, depending on what else they have to go along with this. But I can see how this would work.
Yeah. To me, Fell is the only interesting thing about this. But yeah. So other straightforward cards. Desperate Prayer was shown. It's a 0 mana common priest holy spell. Restore 5 health to each hero. I'm gonna keep going. Razormane Raider was a really kind of standard neutral frenzy minion we saw. It's a 5 mana 5/6 common neutral. Frenzy, attack a random enemy. Could be interesting. What I'm particularly interested in is Peon. 2 mana 2/3 common neutral minion. Frenzy, add a random spell from your class to your hand. That's a sexy neutral 2 mana. I like that. It's
You like the sexy Peon?
It's a sexy Peon, man. I'm sorry. I mean, look at that. It's wearing a vest, but no. Oh wait, are those backpack straps? Never mind. It is wearing a backpack and nothing else, Jocelyn. You go, Peon. You go.
I thought, isn't he wearing a vest?
It looks like backpack straps because dude's got like a bunch of stuff coming out of a backpack. Maybe it's a vest. I don't know.
Who knows?
Celestlon, can we get a canonical ruling on whether that
so.
Peon's wearing a vest or backpack straps? Whatever the case is, 2 mana 2/3 with an upside, like that's cool. I like that. That's a neat card. Let's keep it going. So that's everything that's been previewed for Forge in the Barrens so far. So that's kind of a good, rundown of how spell tags are going to be a thing, how Frenzy is going to function, how spell ranks are going to work. We've got Chain Lightning, which actually looks pretty cool, and Imp Swarm, which looks not so cool, but could have an upside. It's got a tag, so who knows? Looking forward to it. But let's also talk about the core set, because we saw a ton of new cards that are coming to the core set, as well as had some old faithfuls confirmed as sticking around, and a few of them are even getting changed for the better. So you might be out there, maybe you're a rogue player, maybe you're a ridiculous hat, and you're just like, I need my Van Cleef. I miss Van Cleef. Good news for everyone. Rogues get another Van Cleef, and the rest of us still don't need to deal with Edwin, because Vanessa Van Cleef is going to be a legendary rogue minion in the new core set. Vanessa is a 2 mana 2/3 legendary rogue minion. Combo, add a copy of the last card your opponent played to your hand.
I think she's really exciting. I think she has the potential to be super swingy if you know your opponent's deck and you hold on to her and you play her at the right time. Like, you can get some real big, like, game swinging bomb cards off of her that you're not supposed to have access to. So I think she's really interesting and is going to be very skill testing, as opposed to Edwin, who's basically just, how many cards can I play in one turn, and can they all be 0 mana, and can it be turn 3, and can I just be huge? Like, this seems to me like an interesting skill testing, when do I play it card, and I like that idea better than I like the current iteration of Van Cleef. So I think she's an upgrade.
I don't think she's anywhere even close to the power level of OG Van Cleef.
Well, yeah,
and I'm not even gonna
she's an
attempt to.
upgrade. Yeah, she's an upgrade to Hearthstone, I think. She's not an upgrade in terms of more powerful than Edwin. I think she's more interesting, and she creates a more interesting game state than OG Edwin did.
By the way, we have an official ruling on the field on Peon, whether Peon is wearing a vest or is topless. Celestalon says those are backstrap straps.
Backstrap packs?
Backpack straps. Confirmed Peon is topless. Peon is sexy.
All right.
Or maybe just warm.
Yeah.
And I'm objectifying Peon, and for that I apologize. I'm sorry, Peon. I didn't mean to make you feel uncomfortable. So yeah, Vanessa Van Cleef, cool looking card. Also, actually replacing Edwin, which is exactly what happened to Deadmines in World of Warcraft.
Yes, they did pull from Warcraft lore. Again, they seem to be taking quite a lot of inspiration from World of Warcraft in this, expansion, and I'm assuming Hearthstone year. And I am here for that, because I always very much enjoyed the fact that Hearthstone was Heroes of Warcraft. I really, really liked that they were pulling characters I was already familiar with into this kind of card space. So I also love, Hearthstone's own spin on things. Don't get me wrong, but I like having those Warcraft touchstones, if you will.
Yeah. So that's cool. Overlord Runthak, you already made mention to, but just to reiterate, 5 mana 3/6 legendary neutral rush. Whenever this attacks, give +1/+1 to all minions in your hand. New legendary for the core set. We also got to see new versions of Ysera and Malygos. We're getting Ysera the Dreamer and Malygos the Spellweaver in the core set. Ysera is still a 9 mana 4/12. But Ysera the Dreamer has a battle cry that reads, add 1 of each dream card to your hand.
Yeah, so this is really interesting because she's more predictable, right? She's predictable and she's value up front. So you don't have to wait all those turns over and over and over again to get her dream cards, which are just powerful, period. And I think that they said that they were making some adjustments to the dream cards as well. I might be making that up or confusing that with something else, because guys, there's a lot of stuff that's changing. But anyways, you get all of the dream cards as a battle cry as soon as you play this, so you don't have to wait those turnover turns to get the return from Ysera. So I think she's more reflective of the way Hearthstone works now, which is kind of their goal for all of the dragons. So we saw Ysera, Malygos, and we also saw Deathwing too, in terms of the OG dragons. I think they're all getting a facelift, but these are the ones we've seen so far.
Yeah. And at the moment, there are still 5 dream cards, so whether they're being adjusted or not, as long as they're not removing or adding on, that's how much space you're going to need in your hand to make sure you're not at risk of burning some cards.
Yeah.
Either not getting all the dream cards or burning on draw, because you just spent 9 mana and maybe you can't get another card out of your hand. I like this. It's guaranteed value up front, which is varying degrees of either good or bad, right? Like if you're playing a matchup where Ysera was going to survive a ton and just continue generating, then you're losing on a potentially infinite value. But in most real world scenarios, I think this is just better because you're guaranteed to get 5 cards generated just by playing Ysera.
Well, yeah, and you know exactly what those 5 cards are going to be, so there's that extra level of strategy too, right? Like you could be sitting there playing old school Ysera going, I hope I get the dream card, or the actual card dream that lets you put a minion back into the owner's hand.
Which has to be the card they're adjusting, right? So you can't just put Ysera right back in your hand.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's that level of RNG that's been removed. You know exactly what you're getting, you get it up front, and you can make your strategic decisions from there, as opposed to, hoping that you don't get laughing sisters over and over and over and over and over when that's not the card that you really need in that specific scenario. So I think this is just straight up better. I really like the design of this now.
Yeah. Malygos is still a 9 mana 4/12 legendary dragon, but now has a battle cry that reads, draw spells until your hand is full.
Draw spells, not generate spells, which means it's going to pull stuff from your deck. So he has a targeted tutor effect, which I guess that's kind of, I didn't need to say targeted because that's what tutoring is.
Tutor is a targeted draw effect.
Targeted draw. Yeah.
Yes.
You know what I mean, though? Yes.
To remind people who are unfamiliar with the term tutor, there you are.
Yeah. So you can very specifically pull spells out of your deck until your hand is full, which is really, really, really good. So
Cthulhu is still going to be standard legal. So you can find all your body parts for Cthulhu.
Oh, yeah. Which, again, I like this better. Super powerful, but not necessarily game breaking like old Malygos. Like that.
Anytime we get targeted draw, especially this, which there's no limit to how many cards you can draw, as long as they are. The only limit is how many spells are in your deck and how much space do you have in your hand. That's it.
Yes.
I'm pulling the E-Break understatement and going, we'll see. Also, this is my thought on this. I'm real glad that this is part of the core set, a set that will change annually as needed. Because I look at this and go, this has got to be limiting on how you design your spells, because what if there's a very specific spells that you need in a certain sequence to do something broken, like just win the game straight up? Well, you're probably going to want to play Malygos. Granted, you're going to need to get the 9 mana to do it, but still.
Well, and that's kind of the thing, right? So in the Cthulhu example, each of his parts is a spell, but each of his parts costs 5 mana. So you still have to find a turn to play Malygos, a turn to play 2 parts, a turn to play another 2 parts, and then a turn to play Cthulhu, which is a whole lot different than like OTK spell druid, right? Like Malygos druid used to be able to just draw their whole deck, get Malygos, and kill you in that same Malygos turn. So I think that there's kind of a big difference in that design space. This gives you like, yes, it's definitely a combo enabler and it might get you there in a lot of cases, but you have to make sure that you've played a good game up till then, because even after you play him, he's not game ending in and of himself. So I like him. I like his design. I think he's really good.
Yeah, I do too. I'm just anytime I see targeted draw, I just go, this is concerning. And that's my take on Malygos, but it seems like a good card for sure. We're also getting another Deathwing. Deathwing the Destroyer. Does this make Deathwing the most remade card, or is he tied with Ysera?
I think we've had more Deathwings. We've definitely had more Deathwings if you take hero cards into account, or hero portraits into account.
That's fair. You know what? I will take that into account. Why not? Yeah. Why not? Because then Sylvanas could also like be a contender, and although we've only got one Sylvanas card, and why? Where's my new Sylvanas? We've had so many versions of Sylvanas too. We could have like living Sylvanas. We could have the Sylvanas we already had. We could have War Chief Sylvanas. We could have Shadowland Sylvanas. Yeah, Banshee Sylvanas. There you go. Yeah. Anyway, Deathwing Destroyer.
Yeah.
10 mana, 12/12. Legendary Dragon. Battlecry. Destroy all other minions. Discard a card for each destroyed.
Instead of your whole hand.
This seems
this is
better.
Good. Yeah. Well, yeah, it just straight up is better. But yeah, this is really, really cool. And especially the way it's worded, if for some reason Deathwing's the only thing that you have in your hand, then you don't even necessarily, which I guess you didn't really in the other one either, but you don't have the downside really. Like, I don't know, he works. The best case scenario from old Deathwing is still there, but like the worst case scenario, when you might have like 7 or 8 cards in your hand and you have to make the choice of getting rid of all of those resources or potentially dying the next turn because your opponent's just got too many minions on the board, that's, not necessarily a thing anymore. Like, you'll lose some but not all, and I think the some but not all makes it just so much better.
Yeah, this just seems objectively better. Also means, as the chat room is pointing out, that you can play them on an empty board. Also, Jocelyn, you might be a warlock. You might want to discard some cards.
You might want to get rid of some stuff. Yep.
Yeah. This is like the first card that makes me go, ooh, I can't wait to go to wild with this, because I want to play around with discard, like every type of crazy discard.
There's so many discard. Yeah,
that Warlock has had over the many years of Hearthstone. All right, we've got our first confirmed returning card. Tyrion Fordring is staying in Paladin, and staying the same.
Yep.
8 mana, 6/6, Divine Shield, Taunt, Death Rattle, equip a 5/3, Ashbringer. That's, Tyrion is still Tyrion, and
no new name, no new art, no changes, just bam, Tyrion. Love it.
Yeah. Seems like he won't get played because he's currently not getting played.
Again, so much hinges on what all is going to be in this core set, what the new cards look like. Like, there's just so much up in the air right now. I don't even know.
Yep. I will put my faith in the light, chat room. I'll put my faith in Tyrion being playable. Fell Soul Jailer. I don't know why when Soul comes after Fell, I want to say Sowl. It is a problem I've had ever since Fell Soul was sprinkled across the Legion expansion. Like I do red pepper flakes on pizza, which is liberally. But Fell Soul Jailer, 5 mana, 4/6, epic warlock demon, battle cry. Your opponent discards a minion, death rattle, return it.
I don't know about this one.
I don't know about this one either.
I feel like if it was like even just one less mana or maybe one or two more health, but this seems like it's going to make my opponent discard a card. They're going to deal with it the next turn and get that card back anyways. Like, but I mean, I guess that it kind of makes it so they have to use removal instead of using whatever card it was that was discarded or whatever minion it was that was discarded. I don't know. I'm on the fence about this one. Yeah, maybe buying you one turn, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like like a one turn trip up, right?
Mm-hmm.
How would it have worked or will in Wild with Shirvala? Would it have reset Shirvala's mana cost?
I have no idea.
Do you remember old reliable Shirvala Paladin?
I remember.
Chat room saying it wouldn't. Yeah, so if it wouldn't, it's like you're just tripping it up for a turn. Like, so yeah, I don't know. This is like, to me, screams like extremely specific tech card that is only good if you live or die based on tripping up your opponent for one turn, potentially. But yeah. Yeah, I don't know about this one. Earth Elemental is confirmed returning and being buffed. Still a 5-mana 7/8 with taunt, still an elemental, still an epic and shaman, but overload is down to 2 from 3.
Yeah, shaman is getting, I think, the closest to a rework, or I guess the biggest set of changes that we're going to see out of any of the classes, and a lot of it had to do with just how things work with overload specifically. So we got the reduction on overload on Earth Elemental. We got the same reduction on Feral Spirit, which is something that was like iconic in super early iterations of Hearthstone. So Feral Spirit is going to be exactly the same, but with 1 overload instead of 2. And then Lightning Storm didn't get an overload change, but got its low rolls removed. So now we just know what Lightning Storm does all of the time. This is 3 damage to everything on the enemy side of the board.
This is the greatest change in the history of Hearthstone.
I thought you'd be excited.
I hate variable damage spells. They are my least favorite thing in the history of this card game. And one of them, having its variable removed, this was actual Christmas for me, Jocelyn. Seeing this, I was so happy when I saw this.
I thought you might be.
Yep. So
honestly,
seriously, this is not a bit. Thank you, Team 5. Any devs that are listening, I'm so stoked about this.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are. I think it's a really good change. I know there's so many examples. Everyone's got one of, I would have won the game if only my Lightning Storm had just rolled 3 instead of 2. Like, yeah, it's happened to everybody.
Can we do something about 2-plosions in Wild, please? 2-plosion is still a thing. It still haunts my dreams. Let's fix implosion. Maybe crackle at this point.
Maybe
split the difference on crackle.
I was gonna say, I just love crackle, but I know I love crackle because of the response it elicits in you. It's nothing to do with the card itself. It's literally the Garrett meme.
Did you just like watching me give the middle finger to a digital card game? Is that it?
100%.
All right, let's look at a new Shaman Common that's coming in. I also like saying Shaman Common. It's Novice Zapper. This sure looks like it could be Zappy Boy. I need to take off.
Oh, it's 100%, 100% Zappy Boy.
We need to take off that mask and confirm or deny whether this is Zappy Boy or not. Anyway, Novice Zapper is a 1-mana 3/2 common shaman minion with spell damage +1, overload 1. Sure, sign me up.
I like this one because it's basically what is shaman in a card, right? Like, it's got the spell damage themes, it's got the overload themes, it's like showing you how you get something super powerful, but you pay for it later because you're getting a 3/2 for 1 mana. Like, I really like this card. Even if it doesn't end up being playable, though I think it will be, I really like that they're just like, hey, can we just make a card that is shaman in a nutshell? And I think they nailed it with this. So I like it a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. This is, if you had a poster on your wall that had to symbolize each class. Yeah, this would be it for Shaman. Assassinate is confirmed coming back and getting buffed. It's going down to 4 mana from 5. Assassinate still in the rogue arsenal. Is it enough?
Probably won't see play.
Probably seems pretty straightforward.
We haven't really seen Assassinate because they keep getting the same sort of thing but tied to a body, and they're like, well, why would I use the spell when I could do the same thing but also leave a minion behind? So we'll see.
Yep. Menagerie Warden is coming back in Druid, and it's going down a mana to 5, but it's also losing 1/1 in stats. So it's a 5 mana 4/4 instead of a 6 mana 5/5. Same battle cry, choose a friendly beast, summon a copy of it. I really like Menagerie Warden. It took us a long time to finally get beast synergies rolling in Druid, but this card played a really big role in it. So
yeah, and I really like what this kind of represents in that, like, this is a wild card that was something that had a cool effect on it, but maybe wasn't balanced quite properly. And they're like, you know what? Screw it. Put it in the core set, change it however we need it to be changed so that it works with the cards that we're putting out and are available in standard Hearthstone right now. I love what this card represents, that they're just changing things so that it fits better, and they're bringing back super cool effects. Like, sure, I want to see more Beast Druid. That'd be great.
Yep. Fireball is confirmed coming back, or staying, I guess, and nothing's changing. 4 mana, 6 damage, mage spell only. Doesn't have a tag in this, but I'm assuming it's going to get the fire tag.
I'm assuming it'll be a fire. Yeah, it's pretty fiery. It has fire in the name.
But yeah, I mean, it's an argument could be made. And then apparently, since I made the show notes, they've confirmed Anoyotron and Tomb Pillager returning to the core set.
Yes, Anoyotron's coming back, and I'm so excited because now I can be in standard playing Paladin as Anoyotron, playing Anoyotrons, and it's just going to be hello.
If you
for
were
the
not,
whole match, and it's great.
If you were not around for GBG, Anoyotron is a 2 mana 1/2 common neutral mech with taunt and divine shield, and the greatest on play emote of all time.
Yep.
And then there's also Tomb Pillager, 4 mana 5/4 common rogue minion. Death Rattle, add a coin to your hand. It's been a little bit since we've seen Tomb Pillager in standard, but Tomb Pillager got a lot of play.
Yeah. Tomb Pillager was around for a while, and I mean, it has a great effect. So, and I mean, the stats are good too for 4. So, I think we're gonna see it again. Yeah, Pillager was good. Still looks good. Yep. Nothing needs to change. Just good. Before
we exit talking about the core set, Celestalon is really getting himself in trouble with the bold confirmation that Fireball will be part of the fire spell class.
What?
Yeah. Listen, Celestalon, when you get let go for speaking out of turn, we have a spot for you here on the Angry Chicken. It was a very brave confirmation. Just made that.
Until then, we will take all the live leaks you want to give us on Wednesday nights.
Spell classes leaked, all caps for the YouTube thumbnail.
Oh,
the Angry Chicken exclusive with Celestalon.
Fireball will be a fire spell. Dun, dun, dun.
My God. Yeah. Let's just keep trucking right along. The news does not stop. Patch 19.6 is live now. Went live during BlizzCon. And hi, Abyss Allura. We knew our days were numbered. This needed to happen. This card was ridiculous. Went up by 1 mana. No longer 4 mana, now 5 mana.
Still really, really powerful. Like, she's just... I mean, with the combination of, what's it called? The 8 mana paladin spell that summons all the Murlocs from your deck. It's such a swing. Like, anytime I've been able to pull this off, even since 19.6, even at 5 mana, even when I do it on turn 6 or sometimes even turn 7, like, it just, people can't deal with it.
Listen, you might say the combo's coming 1 turn later. I'm saying 1 more turn to find my wand maker.
Right?
Yeah, no, I mean, this is impactful. Like, 1 more turn it can have all sorts of different effects. The big one being like you could pull one more Murloc that you were hoping to cheat out of your deck instead. You could pull your second only other spell in the deck, and this card could be useless. You know, there are times where this could be problematic. On top of the fact that it's just giving your opponent one more turn to potentially kill you if they're an aggro deck, or prepare if they are one of the few control decks that can hang with this.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
I mean, yeah, it was a change that definitely needed to happen. We'll see if it's enough, but yeah, she's gonna be around for a whole nother standard year still. So she needed to be changed.
Yeah. And so did some things in Battlegrounds. So let's talk about how Battlegrounds changed this past weekend with this same patch.
Have a good battle, friend.
So a little bit of housekeeping before we get into the nitty-gritty. So Quillbore were announced as a Battleground-specific minion type at BlizzcOnline. That's not part of this 19.6 update. It's coming at a future point.
Yeah, and one really interesting thing that they said about Quillbores is that they were going to interact with their own new resource, which we don't know anything more than that. Just that Quillbores will have some kind of synergy or some kind of resource that they will give you that we haven't seen before. So that's pretty cool.
It's got to be thorns. It's got to be thorns.
It has to be, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, or tweezers. Maybe tweezers is their resource.
maybe you need to own a pair of tweezers in order to play 2 Quillbore on the same board, because then you're gonna have to use your tweezers to take the quills out of each other. I don't know.
Definitely recommended for sure.
Yeah.
The Dark Moon prizes event has come to an end. Prizes are no longer in the game unless you are playing Ticket Disc, which makes me sad. I really, really liked these prizes.
Yeah, it was a little bit jarring when the first game that I played in Battlegrounds after this patch, because I hadn't realized that they took the prizes out, and I was like, oh man, like, why is everything going so slow? Like, it feels like I'm missing something. And I'm like, oh wait, I don't have any prizes. There's no cards being shuffled into my deck slot. What's going on? Oh, right. Those are gone. Limited time. I mean, it was kind of nice to get back to a bit of a slower game, but at the same time, I felt that they weren't there. I definitely missed them. So
Yeah, a little strange for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm gonna miss them for sure. And then this is probably the biggest part of the update, especially if you're playing at the higher MMRs. Instead of checking for triples after each minion is summoned, all minions will now summon first before any triples are generated. So this nerfs Khadgar and Brand triples. You now need to have the space for 3+ tokens to abuse these strategies.
yeah, which I think was better. I don't necessarily think that those strategies were healthy for the game. It was almost like, I don't want to say exploit because everything was working as intended, but it seemed almost like a workaround to the way the economy of the game was supposed to work. And it just wasn't fun. I mean, it even led to people actually exploiting the whole disconnect reconnect thing, right?
Yeah,
so
you were empowered if you used what I think is objectively an exploit, which is the disconnect reconnect, right? Like,
yeah.
And the only reason that it was tied to an exploit, right? And because the only reason you would be doing that and actually gaining any value from it is if you were tripling in this fashion.
Yeah.
So, now we just do that to play APM Pirates.
I actually really like APM
I
Pirates.
do too.
So I always screw it up though, because I can never keep up and I never finish my turns, and I always end up floating gold. And I had a golden hogger with another hogger, and all my pirates were just like free, and I was like, I don't even know what I can do. It was crazy.
Do you want to know what my hope is? I still hope they fix the disconnect reconnect thing, and I do think this is actually a pretty darn intelligent fix that I think that goes a long way to alleviate some issues. But I still want them to fix the disconnect reconnect in Battlegrounds because I want them to make a pirate card that adds time to your phase. Like I want another captain or first mate that's like take 5 extra seconds during your tavern phase while this minion is on board. Like I want a time synergy with my gold synergy for APM pirates.
I don't even know how they would do that.
Your opponent just has to wait a little bit longer, and it would be hilarious if they don't get extra time. If they're paired with you,
I was gonna say, so they just sit there at 0 seconds with that like tick 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 going off.
yeah, and they need to give Bob some unique lines where he just goes, "Ooh, this is awkward, friend." Yeah, I want it. So, anyways, hero pool updates. Captain Hooktusk has been temporarily removed from the Battlegrounds hero pool. I am fine with this.
No one will miss her.
She will not be missed. Old version is missed if you were playing her and not if you were playing against her. Yashiraj got changed. Embrace your Rage. Used to be start of combat. Add a minion from your tavern tier to your warband. Keep it. It's now start of combat. Summon a minion from your tavern tier. Add a copy to your hand.
This just is so much more powerful, right?
Yes, but it still doesn't fix the like you're always going second, which is still an issue with Yashiraj.
Yeah, that's true. And so it summons a minion from your tavern tier, so you don't get to keep the one that's on board, right?
Well, you get
because it's
copy.
You get the copy in your hand, yeah, but I mean, like, you don't get a copy on board and in hand. You're not 2/3 of the way to a triple.
Correct.
Right. So yeah, not as powerful as the first time I read it, and I was like, oh my god, I get 2 copies, like one on board and one in my hand. So it no longer adds a minion to your warband. Now it just summons it. But yeah, it's the whole start of combat thing is kind of interesting because you're right, Garrett. The big problem with him is that he always goes second, and going first is just such an advantage because then everything plays out a lot more according to your plan, right?
Yeah.
If you get to go first. So
I feel like Yashiraj will be really powerful if they can sort that out. And I just don't know how you do it without like lame edge case like exceptions.
Yeah. Do you still get the copy in your hand if your board is full? Like if I've got 7 minions, do I still get a copy? Or if it's unable to summon, does it shut off the entire hero power? Because that would be another consideration. If I can push this and it just gives me a random minion for my tier, like that's worth 2 gold, right? But if I have to have the room to summon as well, then it's probably, especially later on in the game, #not worth.
I assumed that's why this was an improvement, but maybe it's not because I haven't actually gotten Yashiraj yet, and I haven't seen anyone.
No,
play
I haven't
Yashiraj
played
yet.
with them either. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm unsure on this one.
No one's embracing their rage, Garrett.
We'll have to report back. And considering the radio silence by our chat room on this question,
yeah,
I'm going to assume they haven't seen this either. But it is just strange. Yeah. Elise Starseeker getting nerfed. Well, getting reverted. Recruitment map is going back to 3 gold. And I meant to have this up already, and I accidentally closed it. Sorry, everybody. I'm going back to check. Sorting by current patch, Elise has taken quite the tumble.
Yeah,
wow. Quite the tumble.
It's very much an example of why balance in Hearthstone is so difficult, is because we work in these discrete numbers. Like everything needs to be an integer, and you can't change it by just these little, like 0.3% or whatever. Like you can't make something cost 2.3 gold. It has to be 2 or 3. And so therefore you run into issues where at 2, it's way too cheap and she's way too powerful. But at 3, she's not even playable. Like this is one hero, Elise, I think might be a candidate for going back into the vault and getting a rework. Like I hope Tyrion is. If he just went to the vault forever, I'm going to be really sad.
Yeah.
But I think she needs, something's going on with her. There's got to be a way to make her interesting and playable at the same time, because we've seen now both iterations, 2 and 3 gold. One's too powerful, one's not powerful enough. So I don't know what they do here.
Yeah, she's down in the bottom 10. She's underneath Eudora, Nazoth, Curator, Tess, Alex Straza. So you know she's Garbo. So, yeah.
Alex is amazing.
I mean, getting lucky is amazing. That is a true statement.
It is.
Yeah. King Mukla, Bananarama, they increased big banana drop rate again to 1 out of 3 times. This has already been increased once, and King Mukla is still Garbo. So, yeah.
I like getting random bananas surprised, or getting surprised by random bananas, though.
You are on brand, Jocelyn. You are on brand. Akazamzarak, Ice Block can now only be discovered once per game.
Which I kind of thought this is what they were going for anyways, with the change to make it so that Ice Block was discovered, or couldn't be discovered back to back, and was also being shown to the player way less often. But I mean, I'm glad they finally actually pushed it to this point, because I mean, some people, you talk about getting lucky with Alex Straza, some people get super lucky with Akazamzarak and then have multiple ice blocks in the game, and it's just like, oh my god, how many times do I have to kill you? Why is this still happening? Especially when ice block was in the pool of Dark Moon Fair prizes, and Dark Moon Fair prizes were a thing still in Battlegrounds. It was just like, man, just stop, okay? I just want to murder your face.
Yeah. Still doing quite well, though. Still in the top 5.
Yeah.
Closing out the top 5, as a matter of fact, at the moment, if you're looking at HS Replay for average placement. I had a rather great Akazamzarak game just earlier today. I should have been dead for like all intents and purposes. I was getting terrible.
That's my experience playing against him all the time, is he just should be dead.
Yeah. I barely squeaked by with the Menagerie comp, and that's just like barely held on. However, some of it was just, I actually made the correct call of holding it on to that comp for a while, because I actually didn't pop my, it was one of those games where I thought I was dead, and I skipped my first ice block, because I'm like, it's early enough, I don't need it. And then I wasn't finding it. I was on 5 health, and I was like, I'm gonna die. And so I found it in like turn 12 or 13 or something. Like, this is it. This is the end for me. And but I finally found it, and it still didn't pop for like 3 turns, and I ended up winning the game. So yeah, it was great. It's wonderful.
Nice.
I love you, Akazamzarak.
He's not my favorite. Even when I'm given the choice and I'm given other weaker heroes, I usually don't pick him. Not my jam.
He's really grown on me, and especially with spells gone. What's the give +1/1 to your whole board? Secret Paladin.
Competitive Spirit.
Thank you. With that, with spells gone, because I would always want to take Might of Stormwind for the first round of spells if it was offered. Akazamzarak is just a hero that can get multiple Might of Stormwinds now that spells are gone, and that makes me happy.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So he's really, really grown on me. He's one of my more favorite heroes to play at the moment. Alistra the Immortal has been removed from the Battlegrounds pool. I was actually starting to get quite salty that this minion still existed. So,
which is kind of funny, because she was a fairly new addition, right? She came in with all the taunt minion updates. So
yeah,
she didn't last very long and got nerfed halfway through. And she didn't make gameplay fun and interesting. Losing your first 4 attacks into that minion was just so frustrating.
She wasn't really truly taunt synergy, not in the way that taunt as a tribal synergy in Battlegrounds. She doesn't. She's just good. Like, she's just too good. It's kind of like the issue of overplayed neutrals in constructed Hearthstone. Alistra just worked too well in damn near every composition you could think of. As long as you had a taunt minion, you were going to get Alistra value.
Yep, very, very much. I noticed that actually when I was looking at, I think I was looking at what the most recent like Menagerie comps look like or something. And I noticed when I went to the comp page on HS Replay, and every single one of them, the far right minion was Alistra for every kind of comp. And I was just like, this is not healthy for the meta.
I will say, I still want to like hat tip and say, in the history of kind of homogenized compositions and metas in Battlegrounds. This was one of the more interesting ones. Because
having one minion the same all over the place is one thing, but having everybody going for the exact same kind of tribe or minion type, comp or whatever,
post Elementals launch is still like the worst meta I think we've been through in Battlegrounds. So Lystra homogenized things, but at least we were all still drafting unique war bands. We were just, the cherry on the top was Lystra.
Was throwing her in there too. Yeah.
So I will miss her, but I was kind of done.
I was over it.
Glad to see Lystra go. Rabid Soralisk is changing. Used to be a 4/2 that gained +1/+1 after you played a Death Rattle minion. Now it's a 3/2, but it's gaining +1/+2 after you play a Death Rattle minion.
Yeah, so a little bit more health, which I think is good.
Yeah, starts slightly less powerful, but grows into a beefier, minion, a beefier boy.
Yeah.
Wax Rider Togwaggle, still in the game, apparently. I get so salty when I lose rounds to Togwaggle boards.
Yeah, I never really choose him. I did when Dragons first came out, but then ever since like the Elemental and Taunt stuff, he's not nearly as powerful, except then I see people draft him, and especially if they get Goldens because nobody else is drafting him, and it's, still turn, 5 and 6, and I lose to him. I'm just like, damn it. Togwaggle, you're supposed to be bad. Why are you beating me?
It's just, it hurts mid-tier for the most part. Yeah. I think it's almost always a trap because if you're doing well with Togwaggle, it also means you overinvested in early game dragons, and early game dragons are bogus. Yeah. But sometimes it just carries you. Every once in a while, you catch a Togwaggle wave. And anyway, Togwaggle's going up 1 health. Everything else is still the same. Still a tier 2. Still gains +2/+2 whenever a friendly dragon kills an enemy. So just a slightly beefier Togwaggle. Togwaggle, slightly bigger booty. There we go.
Yeah, all the next 3 are big booty minions.
Yeah, 1 more health on Yo-Hoger. So a 2/6 instead of a 2/5. Everything else stays the same. And 1 more health on Molten Rock, a 2/4 instead of a 2/3. Everything else stays the same. So I always did think Molten Rock was a little understated for being a Tavern tier 2. And I know it can go off if you're party rocking, but it doesn't happen all that often because everyone wants a party rock, so it's contested. And sometimes you just grab a Molten Rock because nothing better, and it's just like, it's just a 2/3. There's a tier 1 minion that does this.
Yeah, he can grow though, but I agree that maybe 2/4 definitely feels better.
Yep. Arm of the Empire is changing to where it used to read whenever a friendly minion, taunt minion is attacked, give it +3. The new one is whenever a friendly taunt minion is attacked, give it +2 attack permanently.
This is a big change.
Yes, and taunt wants to grow over time. The taunt compositions we've seen that work with Champion of Yasharaj, which we're going to talk about next, are it's growing your Champion of Yasharaj, which is also a bit of a mid-tier strategy. It can fall off late game, especially against larger scaling heroes like your Ragnaroses of the world or your Cthuns, combined with things like Poisonous or Divine Shield. But Champion of Yasharaj can really, really do some work mid-game. And so Army of the Empire is now bringing some of this permanent staff buffing, which is what makes taunt work already with Champion. So
absolutely. And I think this is kind of a fun and interesting, and especially since the taunt stuff is neutral, right? So it's in every game, but this is kind of a fun and interesting way to almost do big demons without doing demons, right? You're going to get your taunt minions attacked multiple times in a match. So this champion is going to grow, and he comes out at the same time as, I'm totally blanking on it, but the one that replaced Floating Watcher, essentially.
Big Fernal.
Yeah, Big Fernal. Thank you.
Yeah.
Same sort of style of minion, right? So, and now they're bringing him up to have better stats to start with, which I think is good as well. So yeah, taunt in general got a lot of help in this patch.
Yeah. Including Champion of Yasharaj, which is now a 4/4 up from a 2/2, which, of all the taunt minions, this is the one I didn't think needed help, but here we find ourselves.
It means that he's going to be relevant from the get-go, right? As opposed to being a 2/2, maybe a 4/4 by the time he smacks something in your first round of combat. So it makes it so that it's less of a problem to invest in.
Yeah. Junkbot. Everything's the same. Going to Tavern Tier 4.
Yeah.
How Junkbot has fallen.
But that's okay, because now he's Tavern Tier 4, and now we might actually see Junkbot comps again, and that makes me happy.
Listen, this may not sound like a high compliment, but I mean this is the highest compliment I can give Junkbot. I eked out a 4th place on Maleficent Manastorm today that I at one point was fairly certain I was getting 8th, and it was because of Junkbot that I clawed my way to a 4th place. And so listen, I've definitely got more exciting Hearthstone stories, but this story is not only more exciting than an Alexstrasza win story, but is also a boon to Junkbots. So I'm just going to I'm death by 1,000 cuts on Alexstrasza.
It's fine.
Keep coming.
Fine.
Keep doing it. And then Kangor's Apprentice getting more attack and more health, going up from a 3/6 to a 4/8, which arguably it's like, I want Kangor's Apprentice to die.
But you don't want it to die before your other mechs have died. So I think that's what this allows for, right? Is that, you might get smacked with something, but then it might live long enough that you're actually going to get it full of eggs instead of, nothing.
Yeah, I guess so. It's just that, it's only the first 2, so it's not a concern of wanting to, really load this up and make sure it dies after everything you have on your board has died. So this one's still, this one, I'm a little strange to me. Mech needs help, and I don't think this is the help it needs.
Yeah, that's fair.
So yeah, it's something for sure, and but at the same time, I don't know, like that Maleficent game. I was just like, I'm just staying low because I still haven't found a Deflecto bot, and it's just feels like I don't have a chance without one. So I don't even get within spitting distance of finding a Kangor's Apprentice. So
yeah. I wonder if, I don't know. I mean, I know that Kangor's Apprentice...
Oh my God, I forgot about Zap. I'm sorry. Yeah, chat room's pointing out it takes 2 hits from Zap now. That's a big one.
Yeah.
But it's Mech needs more. I stand by that.
I think that's a fair assessment, is that, Mech is okay, but it had its time in the sun where it was, unstoppable. But that feels like a very, very long time ago now.
I need to be able to build my dinosaurs inside my eggs. I need them to come out and be bigger than 1616.
Which, it's kind of crazy because 1616 back when Battlegrounds came out was ridiculous, and now it's 1616. That's all. My elementals are 260. 820s.
Yeah, they need just put they need someone duct tape on a poison needle on some of these mechs, please. Please and thank you. But yeah, that's it. That's how Battlegrounds is changing now. I've played a few games. I've been on a bit since BlizzcOnline came out. I will say, without spells, my God, it feels like I'm playing in slow motion.
Yeah, it's really the game itself is slower, has slowed down a little bit, but then also I feel like I'm so used to going through my turns quickly as possible because I had that extra spell decision point sometimes. So it's I get through my turns really fast. So I'm like, wait, isn't there something else I'm supposed to do right now? What's going on? Have I forgotten something? It's no, you just used to have to pick a spell this turn.
Yeah. But overall, I think I like this meta.
I'm having a good time.
Yeah, and my less than a week review is that it's a good and it's a healthy meta.
Right.
And I like that it's a little slower. Because I miss the old just minions beating the snot out of other minion combat that was happening before,
Yeah.
Before we figured out how to play Murlocs, and then before they nerfed Murlocs, and everything basically pre-elementals. I missed how slow it was, and we're kind of getting back there, but elementals are still here. So yeah, it's cool. It's cool. It's settled down a little bit, and I'm enjoying it. So, anyways, that's gonna wrap it up for this episode. I'm sorry it was so short, everybody, and I'm sorry we really had to stretch for things to cover there. But exciting times for Hearthstone. For sure. It was a solid BlizzCon. Thanks again to Team 5 for setting us up with that interview. Hope you enjoyed it, everybody. If you want to watch the video version of it, looks nice. It's over at youtube.com/AMOVTV. If you want to support us for our coverage of Hearthstone on this independent, definitely 100% not paid by Blizzard. This is not a bit. They do not pay us. We are paid by our patrons. You can do so over at patreon.com/TAC. Whatever works for you works for us. Show's always going to be free, but we do appreciate our support from our patrons over at patreon.com/TAC. Also, huge thanks to our producers, Declan H and Cheesy Bob. If you want to become an Angry Chicken producer, check out patreon.com/TAC. Back catalog of episodes can be found over at theangrychicken.com. You can follow the show on Twitter at TAC Podcast. And you can find Jocelyn at Joss Plays and me at Garrett Art. Also, congrats to our winners of the Lunar bundle, because one of the ways you could enter to win was by following us on Twitter. So there you are. Those have been dished out. Joss, before we leave, where can people find you?
Oh, so you already said my Twitter handle, so I thought I just wasn't gonna. I thought you were just gonna write out the show,
like other shows to promote.
I don't know. I just you threw me right off. Normally, you're not all about my Twitter, so you guys know my Twitter now because Garrett took care of that. You can follow
so
the
here's
same
Jocelyn's
handle.
address.
Please don't. Oh God. So you can follow me over on Twitch at that same handle, Joss Plays, or go and check out The Gamers Inn or For Azeroth, my other shows. One's about general gaming, one's about World of Warcraft. So if you guys want to hear about what the Warcraft team talked about at BlizzcOnline, go and check out For Azeroth.
I can be found over at amove.tv. This podcast and every single damn one that I produce. So go check it out. Into the Nexus covering Heroes of the Storm, WoW Killer covering World of Warcraft. Just go to amove.tv. It's all there. You don't need to sit here and listen to me. You just go to a website and be like, wow, look at all the stuff that Garrett makes. There it is. And that's going to wrap it up for this episode of The Angry Chicken. We'll be back next week, but until then, job's done.
Job's done. What was that voice?
Wow.